Welcome back to chapter number 12 of this lecture series on CCNA cybersecurity operations with me, Joachim Chap12 from the University of Skövde. And with chapter 12, we are actually at the second to last chapter and we're closing in at the end, which is kind of nice because it's been a long set of video lectures. But I hope you learned something, and we're actually getting more practical now towards the end. And what we will talk about in this lecture is evaluating alerts, and we'll talk a little bit about sources of alerts and give an overview of alert evaluation. And then in the next part, we will talk about how to work with network security data, a common data platform, how we investigate the network data and enhance the work of the cybersecurity analysis. And we will round off with my personal favorite topic, which is digital forensics. Well, in this lecture, let's begin with talking about the Security Onion. So the Security Onion is an open source suite of network security monitoring or NSM tools that runs on Ubuntu Linux or an Ubuntu Linux distribution. So it can be used standalone or as a sensor and server platform and provides three core functions. So it can allow for full package capture and data types, network and host-based intrusion detection system, and alert analysis tools. And we actually use the Security Onion in this course as one of the practical tools that I'm sure you've installed by now if you follow the curriculum and do the practicals. So let's look real briefly on the Security Onion architecture. So the Security Onion contains many different components, and the idea is that it should be an integrated environment which is designed to simplify the development of a comprehensive NSM solution. So as you can see in this in the figure, it has different type of tools for analysis, detection, and different types of data. So what we can see is some of the tools that you can find in the Security Onion. So the idea is that you should be able to capture data such as content data, transaction data, metadata, syslogs, alert data, and host logs, and so on and so forth. And there are a few different tools that you can do this with. So we've talked about SNORT, Bro, and OSSEC before. We also have Suricata, which is another detection tool, and CapME, which is a web application that allows for viewing of PCAP transcripts that are rendered with TCP flow or Bro tools. And then we have some nice analysis tools, Sguil, ELSA, and Wireshark. And we've been talking about Wireshark a lot before. Sguil is a tool that provides high-level cybersecurity analysis, or a cybersecurity analysis console. And it's usually a starting point in the investigation of security alerts, because what it does is that it combines data from a lot of different sources. And ELSA is also is an interface to a wide variety of NSM data logs, so it will present data from HIDs, NIDs, firewalls, syslog clients, so on and so forth. And we will look at and work with all three of those analysis tools. If you haven't done so already, you will do it in the labs in those two last chapters of the course. So let's go more into detail on things. So Sguil is a tool intended or included in the Security Onion, and what it does is that it provides a tool that integrates alerts from multiple sources. And in Sguil, alerts will typically include the file tuple information whenever it's available. So we have the source and destination IP, source and destination port number, and IP protocol number. Something that you must know for the certification exam is what the file tuple is. And what Sguil does is that it provides you with the ability to investigate, classify, escalate, and retire alerts. So you can basically see it as a ticket system for security alerts, and that allows you to investigate the alert, classify it if you are able to determine how it should be classified, escalate it if it should go to a higher ranked analyst, or retire it if you're done with it, or if it's a false alarm. So let's move on to SNORT, which I'm going to stay on for a little while. So SNORT is a very popular IDPS, and and an important part of SNORT is to understand the rules. So the rules are basically the engine of decision. So the rules are the logic that decides how SNORT should act and when it should act. And any SNORT rule will have three different parts. It will have a header with trigger information, basically when the rule should be activated. It has an options section which contains the log message that should be issued when the rule is triggered, the type of rule, and some other kinds of information. If you have a rule that is designed to do package inspection, look at the payload, the patterns to look for is also an option. And then there is a part that is called location, and this is an attribute that is sometimes added by Sguil to enable identification of the rule. So let's look at how a SNORT rule looks. So if we look at a rule, this blue part, alert IP any is the rule header, and this contains the action to be taken, the source and destination, address and port, and the direction of traffic flow. So in this case, an alert should be issued when there is IP traffic going from any IP address to any other IP address. Then we have the rules option, which is the green part, and this includes the message to display. So in this case, GPL attack response, ID check return route. Then it can include some details of the packet content, a pattern, and so on and so forth. And then we have the rule location, which is added by Sguil to identify the location of the rule in the security onion file structure. So if we go a little bit deeper into this blue part, the header, the alert part is the action to be taken, or that the action to be taken is an alert in this case. The other ones are log and pass, where a log means that we just issue a log message, and pass and nothing. IP is the protocol. Then we have the IP address and layer 4 port of the specified source. Then we have the direction of flow, in this case from source to destination. And then we have the specified destination IP address and layer 4 port number. And some of the components that we can have in this option field is message, text that describes the alert. Content refers to the content of the package. So in this case, an alert will be sent if the literal text UID equals 0 parenthesis root. If that is in the content of the package, then an alert will be sent. So you can see that the 28 and the 29 in this case is starting in parentheses. And then we have reference, which is not shown in the figure, and this is often a link to a URL that will provide more information on the rule. Then we have a class type, which is a category for the attack, which can be, for instance, a priority. Then we have an SID, which is a unique numeric identifier for the rule, and a rev, which is a revision number for the rule. So that is it. Let's move on from SNORT rules to evaluating alerts. There is a practical that allows you to practice writing some SNORT rules, and you do that occasionally. What is most important is to understand them, and you would most likely use this comprehensive rule set that is freely available. So when it comes to evaluating alerts, I think you understand by now that no sensor is made perfect. So what we try to do is establish baseline and find abnormalities, and this is a best effort job. It's just like in the real life when you try to determine if someone is guilty of a crime or not. Sometimes you get it wrong. And there are two important terms, or 4 important terms that you need to know about. You have false and true positives and false and true negatives. So when something is false, it means that we made an incorrect assessment, and true is when we made a correct assessment. So a true positive is when we alert and we should make an alert. False positive is when we alert for legitimate traffic. So when we issue an alert, but there shouldn't be an alert. In the same way, a true negative is when we do not issue an alert and we shouldn't issue an alert, and a false negative is when we do not issue an alert even though we should issue an alert, so we miss something. And you can say that a stricter policy allows us to have less false negatives because we miss less, but we have more false positives because we identify more legitimate traffic as illegitimate. And on the other hand, a more lax policy goes the other way around, more false negatives, but also less false positive. And a very big part of the job for a Tier 1 analyst is to find out what positives that are in fact true. So there are some different types of analysis that we can issue. There are statistical techniques that are used to evaluate the risk that exploits are successful. We will look more into different risk assessment and vulnerability assessment tools, I believe, in the next chapter. But for now, know that the deterministic approach is based on what is known about an exploit. And what it does is that it assumes that all steps in an exploit must be successful, and essentially we calculate the risk, or the risk that each step in the exploit will be a success, and the combined risk is the risk for the attack as a whole to be successful. Then we have a probabilistic approach that estimates the potential of a success of an exploit by estimating the likelihood that if one step is successful, so will the next step be. And those are two different approaches. So that's actually all for this lecture. I hope to see you next time. Feel free to leave questions in the comment field, and have a good day.